city, and the geographical associations of Ayodhya cannot be assigned to the present city of Ayodhya. Bibi Lal contested it, but the arguments advanced by Professor Bibi Lal are not convincing, and I will on his Ramayana archaeology, I will have presently something to say. In fact, the name of the city, which is now Ayodhya, in Buddhist times, or in the time of Gautama Buddha, and in Mauryan times, and in the time of Patanjali, was Saket. Neither Panini nor Patanjali mention Ayodhya at all. Saket is also mentioned in Buddhist texts as an important city of Kaushal, and the roots indicate that it is indeed the present Ayodhya. Ayodhya or Ayodhya in the Buddhist texts have two indications. One is that it was on the Ganga, not Saryu, a very discomforting point. And the other was that, according to the Buddhist text, Dashrath's capital was Banaras, and therefore Ayodhya, being a legendary city, was occasionally identified with Banaras and so assumed to be on the Ganga. The first epigraphic reference to Ayodhya is very late inscriptional reference. Kumar Gupta's inscription of 435-36 refers for the first time to Ayodhya, but it is the inscription 12 miles from Ayodhya is on a Shaivite linga and has still no connection with Vishnu. However, by this time, of course, Ayodhya was connected, and the legendary city was now placed at Ayodhya. So, Ayodhya as the historical name of a place is very late, much later than the Ramayana tradition. It would not have been of much importance had not Vishwa Hindu Parishad made such a song and dance about it. To me, it's not very important. But they have been saying that Rama was born in Ayodhya city, as now he was a man, he was born there, and exactly at this place, Ram Janam Bhumi. Whereas the facts are that Ayodhya was a legendary city as far as one can judge. And as far as one follows the Director General of Archaeological Survey of India, I suppose, who knows his business, and as one follows the epigraphic evidence, which as a historical geographer I have studied, the identification of Rama as Ayodhya with Saket and with the present place is very recent comparatively, 5th century AD. As far as the construction of the Ramayana tradition is concerned, some elements of it are very late. For example, the conception of Rama as an absolute God rather than as a deity or a prince is very late. And as Sankalya points out, it's not present in either Kalidas or Bhavbhuti, the Sanskrit, important Sanskrit writers of the Gupta period. And in fact, the latter of them censures Rama for his treatment of Sita. Ethical problems are there. That makes the Rama tradition so important for India. A ruler in real difficulty, conventional law on the one hand, morality on the other. These are the dilemmas of a ruler. They are the dilemmas of real life. They are the part of our culture. What you are converting instead and insisting on is a myth to be accepted as history. And that cannot be accepted. You are depriving our culture, our thought, our ethical history of its real content. Now, from this I come to the archaeological evidence which has now been touted about, and it is said that when Babur officer, Mir Baqi, built his mosque in 1528-29 AD. I will come to the inscription presently. Then there was a temple there, the Ram Janambhumi temple. And Swaraj Prakash Gupta has come forward with the statement that there is an important archaeological evidence, and people, many newspaper journalists, and I suppose many newspapers, now have convinced themselves that there is overriding archaeological evidence that there was a temple which was destroyed, if not by Emperor Babur, then by Mir Baqi, and a mosque built there. Now the story of this, here also what one, if I go into details, tell me, because I'm very much afraid that I will be saying something which you might not like me to go into such detail, but I think it is important, because what the Vishwa Hindu Parishad is doing is, that is propagating this up and down the country. And therefore those who are interested, I invite them to form their own judgment. Critical historians in India, and I'm not speaking about European historians, I'm talking about G.R. Bhandarkar, D.R. Bhandarkar, I'm talking about Yunarsi Majumdar, I'm talking about B.D. Kausambi, all the range of Indian historians, critical historians of ancient India, immersed in Sanskrit lore. I'm talking about them. They have never talked of an epic period of Indian history. They have never talked about a period when Rama was king in Ayodhya and there was an administration and so on and so forth. They would laugh it off. What they have been concerned correctly is the reconstruction of Indian history and archaeology in a scientific fashion, which, as I say, brings out the real creativeness of the Indian people, and not the stagnant minds of which VHP and similar communists consist of. Now, unfortunately, I consider it totally unfortunate that because of the so-called biblical archaeology investigation, they are developed in late 50s and 60s in spite of the opposition of A. Ghosh, the prince among archaeologists and for long the Director General of Archaeological Survey. A desire to establish that there is an archaeological or historical kernel in Mahabharata and Ramayana legends, and therefore to establish the Mahabharata and Ramayana archaeology. Pune didn't do it. Professor Kulkarni would bear me out. No scientific archaeologist would touch it. Sankalya and his colleagues, A. Ghosh and others, would never even speak of it. The prophet and the main author of this was my senior friend, for whom I have great respect, but with whom I have also great differences, Professor B.B. Lal. Professor B.B. Lal is the patron saint of both Mahabharata and Ramayana archaeology. And for reasons which I am not aware, but I shall lay the facts before you, he has made available to Swaraj Prakash Gupta a tendentious report of evidence which VHP is making use of. We will soon see what it consists of. I think it is important. I think even those who are not concerned with history and archaeology should be able to grasp it. Bibi Lal went to Hastinapur, a Mahabharat city, with the, I am afraid, the preconceived notion that he was going to dig a very old site. What he got was what is called painted graveyard. This culture had to be pre-iron in order to be ancient, in order to be at least 1500 BC. So in the most extensive of painted graveyard excavations, it was reported that no iron was found. I hope you remember this. Bibi Lal reported that no iron was found in Hastinapur. When my senior colleague R.C. Gaur began excavating Atranji Kheda with a much greater sense of sticking to facts and striking levels which were lower than those of Hastinapur, he got iron. And he was so confused that one trench should produce iron, whereas the whole Hastinapur excavations had produced no iron. That doubts began to be raised why Bibi Lal and his archaeologists were not able to find iron. Clearly, if iron had been reported, everybody would have said that Hastinapur is not ancient. How can it be Mahabharata? It's not even Gautama Buddha. But R.C. Gaur, the excavators at No, and others began to discover iron. So the myth was blown open. Carbon-14 dating did another cruel blow to the myth, and the dates of Hastinapur and other painted graveyard sites have been brought down to between 800 and 500 BC. Hardly stuff to make Mahabharata archaeology, which was supposed to go back by its traditional devotees to 3600 BC. 3000 years behind the Mahabharata date. Now, Bibi Lal has written now papers saying that all the carbon-14 dates are strays, are corrupted. This is a peculiarity of painted graveyard, that if you send it to carbon-14, the dates are going to be wrong because they are going to be too late. Anyway, I'm just giving you the background. Professor Bibi Lal then goes and digs at Ayodhya, where Professor A.K. Narayan had previously dug. No great discovery resulted. No earlier levels were found. No carbon-14 dating attempted. And yet, 700 BC date declared to be the earliest point. I am very doubtful about this 700 BC, but I let it remain there. Bibi Lal then printed his reports in Indian Archaeology, a review, in 1976-77. And the curious thing was that between 100 AD and 1100 AD, the main period of the spread of Ramayana cult in India, he found no evidence of occupation. Ayodhya was not hardly, he dug what he called Ram Janam Bhumi and Hanuman Gadi, and he found no level of occupation. Then he added, the entire late period is devoid of any special interest. He made no statement about a temple. He made no statement about any basis of pillars. He made no statement about medieval pottery or Islamic glazed pottery. He said nothing about it. In 1979-80, he gave a shorter report. Nothing was said about the facts which Swaraj Prakash Gupta has now sprung on newspaper readers. In both these reports, Swaraj Prakash Gupta's name is never mentioned as one of the collaborators. Now we come to the crux of the matter. Suraj Prakash Gupta claims that he was a digger. Then why was his name not reported? He claims that bases of pillars were found in such alignment that it is that the existence of a temple from 11th to 16th century is undisputed. Why were these bases not reported? He claims that Islamic pottery reveals that the floor was made up again and again of the temple until the 16th century. Why was not this Islamic glazed pottery reported by B.B. Lal? He had been Director General of the Archaeological Survey of India. He would have dismissed, or he should have dismissed his subordinates if they had suppressed important finds of this nature. But in the Indian Archaeology Review, this was not reported. B.B. Lal, in Encyclopedia of Indian Archaeology, published, edited by A. Ghosh, made no mention of this. He said the only evidence for temples in Ayodhya is 200 years. 200 years only evidence. What then of the evidence now being supposedly brought forward by Suraj Prakash Gupta under his name of a temple in 11th century AD? And finally, he gave a talk of Ramayana archaeology at the seminar on new archaeology in ICHR in only 2 years back, and there was not the slightest mention of this evidence. Now, archaeologists and other historians are very generous. I am not. I have a suspicious mind. Like Professor R.S. Sharma, I have a suspicious, you might say, nasty mind. I think that interpretations are often affected by circumstances. Archaeological ethics are set to prevent this. Everything must be reported, what might be called in heat, when you have no time to reconstruct, no time for afterthoughts. Here the excavations took place between 1975 and 79. No reports. After 10 years we are asked to believe these reports. But even when you consider these reports, even when you consider the report as given in his usually bad English by S.P. Gupta, what does it amount to? I ask you, if this was a temple floor, would Islamic glazed pottery would be found there in such abundance? I ask you this simple question. I am not asked it, Suraj Bhan has asked it. Suraj Bhan has asked, show me a temple floor where Islamic glazed pottery would be in such abundance. Does it not suggest that it was not a temple there, but human habitation? Hindu or Muslim, of course, can't be decided, but human habitation, not temple. As far as the pillars of the Babri Masjid are concerned, the 14 black pillars, it has been pointed out that there are 2 other pillars in Faizabad, and that it was a common practice to use old pillars, not only for mosques but also for temples. In one Jaunpur mosque, the pillars have been brought from Banaras, containing a Sanskrit inscription. Cholas in their temples, as Professor R.S. Sharma points out, brought pillars from old abandoned temples, and perhaps sometimes even if they were destroyed by contractors, who can tell? They brought them from distances and installed them. So the presence of temples, of pillars, which might have belonged to an earlier temple, does not suggest that this building, Babri Masjid, was built on the site of an existing temple. Far less does it suggest that it was a site of the Rama temple. Rama temples were not built before the 11th century in India, number one. So the existence of a Ram Janam Bhoomi temple, say in 6th century, or a shrine in 6th century or 3rd century or earlier, is out of question. Secondly, pillars could belong to a Jain temple, a Shaivite temple, or any temple. They have no particular features which could so identify them. And therefore, the total archaeological evidence, as has been brought forward by Suraj Prakash Gupta, with Professor B.B. Lal unfortunately in the background, cannot seriously be accepted. On the other hand, it must be looked into and scrutinized. And I think that this is the time to call the spade a spade and look very closely at what Sankalya always insisted must be looked at very closely, the whole gamut of religious archaeology, of mythical archaeology, of Mahabharata and Ramayana archaeology, and see whether this is not distorting the real history of the Indian people by diverting real developments in everyday life, creativity in production technology and so on, with which archaeology should be concerned, and diverting it entirely into a religious question so that particular archaeologists might look to be the great stalwarts of a particular religious trend. And I think that Professor R.S. Sharma has been very right in demanding that all the site notebooks and others should be shown so that the evidence should be tested. And I hope too that similarly this would be spread, this scrutiny would be extended to the other elements of Indian archaeology, where carbon dating is not put in time, where afterthought is employed later, where evidence of existence of particular metals is suppressed. Now we pass on to the evidence which the Hindu Parishad has presented on whether the Babri Masjid is built on the site of a temple. Now, they have talked about contemporary evidence. Of course, as with faith, their notion of contemporary is very broad. My notion of contemporary is, I am afraid, professional. By contemporary, I mean contemporary. I don't mean Suraj Prakash Gupta. I mean contemporary. I mean Mir Baqi. I mean a person at least belonging to the 16th century. What do they tell us? Now, Mir Baqi in his inscription, which is, I think, surely genuine, Sushil Srivastav has raised doubts about it. He's a very liberal. I wouldn't like to dispute with him unnecessarily, but facts are facts. This inscription is as genuine as Babur's will is a fabrication. So whether Babri Masjid says that Babur's will is genuine, I won't accept it. It's obviously a fabrication. But the inscription is genuine. And what does the inscription tell us? That by the orders of Shah Babur, a mosque, the alighting place of angels, was built here by the Amir Sa'adat Nishan, the Amir with auspicious marks, Mir Baqi. Baqi Beg is mentioned as governor of Awadh in Babur's memoirs. A later writer would not have known this. A later fabricator would not have known this. And the date is given by inverse chronogram 935 Hijri, 1528-29. Now, clearly, if the mosque had been built on the site of a temple, and if Babur and Mir Baqi were such ruffians in these matters, as the scholars of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad tell us they were, I am not interested in their personal characters, I won't dispute that. I would go along with them and say that Babur was a ruffian, a barbarian, who prided himself on destroying temples and establishing mosques. For the moment, I will go along with them. And that Mir Baqi, a Tashkendi, was also of a similar stamp. that destroying a temple and building a mosque in it, they regarded as sawab or work of merit. I go along with them. I am totally with them. I then ask them, why then Mir Baqi did not say that this is a mosque established by destroying a Butkada? This is normally given in inscriptions where this takes place. They did not know that a secular age would be coming. Neither they nor Shaivite and Vaishnavite and Jain potentates of ancient India, they also did not know that there would be a secular time when Rajmata of Gwalior, about whose state's past I will have something to say, would be frowning upon the destruction of a Hindu shrine and the construction of a mosque. They didn't know. I agree that they felt that if they destroy Butkada, they would be rewarded in heaven. I go along with you. There are inscriptions, Ubatul Islam Mosque and others, where this is said. Why should Mir Baqi suppress it? Mir Baqi should have said it. That here was a Butkada and Babar Basha Ghazi gave me the order to destroy it. Why does he suppress it? I ask you on the basis of circumstantial evidence. Will anyone in his senses accept that Mir Baqi knew that Mr. Advani will be riding a Rath Yatra in 1990? Then I come to Tulsidas. I am very sorry that I should mention Tulsidas in the same lecture that I am mentioning Mr. Advani. I am really sorry. But I have to come to him. Can there be a greater devotee than Tulsidas, who made Rama the household of the Hindi belt? Would he not say that, look here, Ram, your birth site is denied to us, your devotees? Would he not say? But he makes no mention of it. As if on this particular matter, he is not a devotee of Ram at all. Whereas about caste and so on, he is very clear. But on this particular matter, it doesn't just strike him that only 50 years before he was writing, less than 50 years before he was writing, in 1573, Ram Janmbhoomi had been destroyed by Babur, a mosque constructed, a temple destroyed, the devotees deprived of visiting the birth site of Lord Ram. Would he not even obliquely mention that there are disasters enough, but this is the supreme disaster? I put it to you. Or when Abul Fal comes, Abul Fal hates Muslims who persecute Hindus. You read Ain Akbari, you read Akbarnama. On this, there is no compromise. There are passages of great splendor. But when he comes to Ayodhya, he mentions with wonder that there are some people who think there are graves of the prophets, Shees and Ayub in Ayodhya. He regards it as, that this was also, he says, the city of Ramchandra. But he makes no mention of Ram Janambhoomi or other iniquities, although the graves are mentioned of these two prophets. So, why Abul Fazl should not mention it? Why in 1695, Sujan Rai Bhandari, author of Khulasat al-Tawarikh, giving a fairly reasonably long account of Ayodhya, makes no mention of it. Sujan Rai Bhandari had no particular reason. In other passages, he cites, he mentions where a mosque has been built or where there is a great pilgrimage center and so on, but on Ram Janambhoomi, he has nothing to say. In Muhammad Shah's time, Chittarman writes Chahar Gulshan, another geographical work in which Ayodhya is described. Nothing about Ram Janam Bhoomi. So we come to now 1748. More than 220 years have passed, and not a single source can VHP present for its claim that Babur built a mosque, let alone on a Ram temple, which would be the only relevant issue, but on any temple whatsoever. Now, this is stretching contemporaneity, you will agree, to a very great extent. I mean, contemporary means a lifetime, a generation of 30, 60, 100 years. But 220 years would be stretching contemporaneity to an extent unknown to historians since Rankin. Now, then starts a kind of evidence on which I wouldn't have said much because Professor Atharali is there, and on matters of Aurangzeb he is the master. But Vishwa Hindu Parishad have now assured us that there is a book by a granddaughter of Aurangzeb, Nasai Bahadur Shahi, in which it has been said that emperors, sultans, should treat their subjects well, even if they are Hindus, but the religion should be protected, and mosques built at places like Rasoi Sita ki Rasoi, or Karargai Hanuman Garhi should be maintained.